What's up, everybody? Just waiting for her to get back on. Had some technical difficulties, so she'll be back. All right, let's do this.
All right, is that better?
Way better.
Yeah, in my apartment, the service is really bad, so I had to come outside.
It's all good. We're gonna do it outside. How you doing? How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. You know, I took a nap before, so I feel even better.
Okay, nice, nice.
And
We
get
need that
revitalized.
sun moons. We need those naps.
Naps is
Calm our
everything.
brain.
Naps is everything, man. Naps is everything.
Yeah.
I'm glad. First of all, I gotta say, I'm glad you on, man. This is dope. I think this topic is gonna be fresh. It's new. I haven't seen nobody else talk about this type of thing ever on IG ever before. So that's why I thought it was a perfect time to kind of bring something new and fresh into my live. You know, which I always try to. But this is definitely way different. So really quickly, can you just introduce yourself? What do you do? Where you from? You know what I mean? And because of this, for the sake of AstroCartography, can you give us your zodiac sign?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you, Kenta, for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and speak about astro locality. And so I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I'm Q Brandon. That's my name, Q Brandon. Originally from Washington, D.C. I have been an astrologist since 2015. I really started to, I guess, push my astrology business more into the astro locality realm last year in 2021. After being on Clubhouse and seeing that there were really no astrologists talking about astrolocality. And since I am an avid traveler, I am a Libra sun with Libra sun in the 9th house. So I love to travel. And so, you know, back in 2015, I would always use astrolocality on myself to travel to certain places, particularly for business because I have Virgo on my 9th house cusp. So I'm always traveling for business as opposed to pleasure. I hope to change that at some point in my life. But so yeah, so that's what I've been. That's who I am. I'm Q Brandon from DC, astrologist. My background is actually in clinical astrology, which is actually psychotherapy and astrology. So I help clients with mental health issues. It could be psychosis. It could be, just helping them figure out what their path and their purpose is. So things like that. That's pretty much like my background. And astrolocality is just like a subsector of what I do. And I've gotten pretty good at it because I travel and I get to see how energies work when I travel.
Nice. And if I'm correct, you're also a model as well, too, right? You're a model as well. You model out there.
Yes. So
Nice. Talk about it.
Yes, I'm also a model. I've been modeling longer than I've been in astrology. So I've been modeling for 12 years now. I started out in New York back in 2010, and I'm currently in Los Angeles. I model out here. I'm direct with an agency out here that also has they also have offices in New York and here in LA. So I'm direct out here in LA. I'm loving it, loving the weather. As you can see, I'm sitting in the shade. It was a very hot day today. I'm glad that we picked such a perfect time to talk because it was really hot today. So I'm cooling out right here. And yeah.
Yeah, real quickly. So first of all, if you look on the flyer, you see AstroCartography. Even the way it's written, I thought I wrote it right, but it's actually 2 asterisks and carto, and then it's ography. So that's how the word looks actually. So can you just really quickly break down what astrocartography means, what it is, so that people understand?
Absolutely. So let me just first answer your question about the asterisks. So the reason why the asterisks are there is because astrocartography is actually copyrighted. right? An astrologist by the name of Jim Lewis invented astrocartography in the 1970s, and he trademarked it. And so the generic term is actually astrolocality or astrogeography. So that's why you see those asterisks in astrocartography all over the internet and stuff like that. And basically what astrocartography, aka astrolocality, astrogeography, what it is essentially how the placements of the planets affect the energies where we live, where we relocate, where we visit, where we travel to. Everyone's chart has a different energy associated to it. So, you know, for example, you might go to Canada and have an amazing time, whereas someone else might go there and they have a horrible time, because essentially this particular type of chart, you have to know your birth time, you have to know your birth location and your place of birth as well, and it'll show you the power lines. This is what we call those in astrolocality. The power lines are a combination of planets and angular positions, and the angular positions, of course, represent houses. So those positions, those power lines, are correlated to your specific birth chart. So you might have good energy in one place where another person doesn't. I mean, we always hear, you know, oh, I went to the Bahamas and I had a great time, or someone else might say, oh, I had a horrible time and I lost my wallet and blah, blah, blah. And that's because they likely have some different energy going on with that location.
And I also realized that, you know, for those who are hip to astrology, is the first thing you plug in your birth chart is that they ask for the time, a place, and a location, and it does uses longitudinal and latitudinal lines to map your birth chart so that it knows where the planetary alignments are. And I also noticed in numerology, they get your whole birthday numbers to find out what places are best for you to live and what places aren't. So how does that differ from numerology's ways of finding what's a good place to stay or not based on your numbers, and how, compared to astrocartography, which does astral mapping and plotting lines and all those type of things?
So I really want to know the answer to that question because I'm not well versed in numerology. And I actually don't have much experience with numerology and locations, to be quite honest with you. But what I will say about astrocartography is that essentially when you go on like astro.com and, you know, you put in your birth chart information and you look at that chart, just a standalone astrolocality chart, that is just simply showing you where the planets were at when you were born, right? So a lot of the planets are going to be closer to your rising sign, essentially. So let's say you have Neptune in the first house, then likely where you were born, Neptune is there. And, you know, that could be very problematic for certain people. That's why a lot of times people say, well, you know, you got to leave your hometown in order to be successful. That's very true for maybe 98% of the charts that I've read throughout my career. And the other 2%, most people, that 2% can actually stay right where they're at. We know people who've stayed in their same hometown and they, you know, thrive and they do very well and they get really good jobs, right? So it just really boils down to what's going on in your first house. You know, if you have an outer planet like such as Neptune or Pluto, like conjuncting your first house, you may not want to stay where you're at. You may actually have better energy elsewhere. So I really don't know much about numerology and the numbers, honestly. I'm one of those people who sort of, when I find something I like, I kind of zero in on that, and I don't like to go outside of that. So I'm no astrology tarot card reader, astrology numerologist. I'm strictly astrology, and I love it. And that's what I do. It's like I can't go outside of that. Human design, I don't know much about that stuff. So I would be the wrong person to ask about that stuff, honestly.
All right, and that's fine. Sometimes not everybody knows everything, and that's cool with that. You know what I mean? We all have our own, like you said, we zero on what we love and what our passion is, and that's just how it is, you know? And so I did realize this, though. When I would look into, prior to the interview, I was trying to get into, like, what astrocartography is, and I tried to look up books, and it wasn't really a lot of books on it like that. You know what I mean? And I thought that was interesting how you would think something like that that's rare like that would have more wide variety of scholarship, but really I couldn't find a lot of books, you know what I mean? But I did find one book that talked about the psychology of astrocartography. And that's when I figured out I spelled it the wrong way. And I wonder, like, what is the psychology of how does psychology play into astrocartography?
So pretty much, essentially, we know that psychology pretty much deals with our psyche, our mind, our brain, the deep, dark stuff that we don't really want to deal with, right? So in that particular book, that's a really good book, by the way. Jim Lewis coined that book, and he talks about shadow planets in there. He talks about every single planet as it relates to astrocartography. He talks about the angular positions in astrocartography. So when we deal with the psychological aspects of relocating, right, we really have to like be real with ourselves. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, am I getting the good energy here? Is the energy here conducive to my relocation goals? Like, is it conducive to what I want to be, who I want to be as a person in the long term? And that deals with us thinking, right? We have to think through these things, right? So in that particular book, you're learning everything there is to know about every single planet that, you know, you might even travel to, and probably things that you should probably stay away from. The other really cool thing about that book is I noticed that he doesn't really talk much about Chiron.
Right.
He doesn't really talk much about Chiron there. And
Right.
and I'm like, that's more psychological than anything. And, you know, honestly, because that's like, you know, where you're triggered and where you need healing and things like that. But I think what he was trying to get at with that book is, you know, there is a very in-depth section about Pluto, right? And Pluto, it definitely deals with the psyche. It's eighth house matters, right? So with that, in that regard, I believe that, you know, with that book, you know, he's giving you the information that you need to know about, you know, what are the shadow planets? Because if you have a shadow planet in your natal chart and you go to that particular line, then you're definitely going to be dealing with like the real mucky stuff, the stuff that you probably don't want to deal with, the dark stuff, the stuff that's hidden from you. So I think that's probably what he was getting at with that. And when we think about, you know, traveling, you know, or relocating rather, you know, it does take us, you know, we have to go deep within, like, okay, is this a good move for my family? Is this a good move for me? There could even be issues of flying. Am I afraid to fly past a line? You know, is this line like gonna, you know, really kind of mess me up there? Like, I believe that book is a great foundation for people who want to learn astrocartography from a more psychological viewpoint, for sure.
Okay, and there's something interesting about it. Like, I peeped that well, first of all, can you we're going to kind of, for people who not familiar with the terms in astrology, like you mentioned Chiron, right, and Pluto, they might know it as words, they don't understand what it means. Can you just quickly break down, really quickly, Chiron Conjunction, what does that mean? And let's quickly break down, let's do that first and I'll go into my second part of that question. Let's break down.
Okay, so Chiron first?
Yeah.
Okay, so Chiron and astrolocality, you want me to like talk about that?
Yes.
Okay, so basically Chiron and astrolocality is the place that you go to essentially, how I describe it, to do shadow work. You know, if you really want to understand how to heal yourself, because Chiron in astrology stands for the wounded healer. I don't necessarily like that term. I always say that Chiron represents where we feel triggered, and we have to sort of work on getting past those triggers. And, you know, once we get past those triggers, then we can help other people get past the triggers in that same house and sign wherever you have Chiron, right? So when you go to your Chiron line, and that's actually where I was last year in Mexico City. So I have a pretty big respect for Chiron, and I have a lot of knowledge about going and living on a Chiron line. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Basically, with Chiron, you go through some deep shadow work. You ever heard of the dark night of the soul? You will experience that head on. If you ever wanted to like release and purge and you know, really heal yourself from within, that is the line that you particularly go to, because of course in astrology it's where our wounds exist. And so when you go to that line, your wounds are right there in front of your face. You know, last year I lived in Mexico City and I was living on Chiron and Zenith, which is like Chiron is sitting on top of my head. That's what that means. It's like when you're dealing with Zenith, it's like you're right smack dab on that energy. And then also Chiron conjunct Ascendant was there as well. And a conjunction in astrology is essentially when two energies are right on top of each other. So you're getting the best of both worlds and also the worst of both worlds, right? Because they're interacting with each other. They're right next to each other. A conjunction is literally 10 degrees in separation. Some astrologers use 6 degrees. I recommend 10 degrees of separation. So when you're dealing with Chiron conjunct any of those angular positions, you're going to be dealing with wounds. And let's say if it's Chiron conjunct the midheaven, we know the midheaven deals with the 10th house of career and legacy. So if someone is living on their Chiron conjunct midheaven power line in a particular location, they're going to be faced with some issues surrounding their career. They might feel very insecure about what they're doing for career. They may feel like, well, I'm not at the peak where I want to be right now. I'm not getting promoted, you know, or it could be flip side. If the person has already gone through healing, right, they may be able to help people in their career, like their coworkers, for example. They might be able to help their coworkers move past their triggers in career. Like perhaps the coworker is maybe feeling like they felt 5 years ago, and they can come in and help them and say, hey, you know what? It's okay. Do this, X, Y, and Z. You can get this promotion like this. Do this, do this, do that, right? Because again, Chiron is about finding healing within so that you can help to heal others. That's what Chiron is about.
And so for example, my Chiron is in Virgo, so which is opposite to my sun, which is in Pisces. So is Chiron always the opposition to your sun, or no? Was it just
no, not at all. Nope.
All right.
Yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbled when you were born.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I thought it was a pattern. I thought it was maybe a pattern, and you know, I always thought it was maybe patterns in astrology that maybe works for everybody, but I guess it doesn't work that way. I don't know. I'm a novice.
Yeah. I thought that too when I first started out. I was like looking at charts all day, like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Try to get the patterns of it, but I got a lot of studying to do, as you can see. So the second part to the earlier question was that I noticed that I kind of skimmed through the book real quick and then online, of course, and I noticed that the author had used that each planet has a personality. And then when you travel to certain places, you're actually heightening that personality. So, for example, if I go to a certain place that heightens my sun, I'm going to be more active on my sun personality. But if I go to another place and may be active on my moon, that's going to heighten my moon personality. So can you kind of break down the planets and their personalities real quick for the people?
Sure. So starting with the sun. So the sun in astrolocality or astrocartography. So when I say locality, for those of you who have joined, I am talking about astrocartography, just so you guys can follow. So the sun in astrocartography is about our ego, self-expression, finding our inner hero. And it's also the line where you can find fame, right? So let's say, for example, a person is an Aquarius sun, right? So when they go to their sun line, they're going to be more in their Aquarius energy, right? They're not going to really take on like Leo energy per se. They're going to take on that Aquarius energy, and they're really going to be dealing with that house, whatever house the sun is in for them, right? So that's the sun. The sun is where we find our inner hero, we find our power, our courage. And it's also a line where we can go to have fun and, you know, be romantic and do things that we've never done before, like zip lining and, you know, things that are really fun, because traditionally the sun is represented as the house of children, fun, play, and pleasure. So not only are you, you know, finding your power and your courage and, you know, like a Leo would, right? You know, liking that attention and stuff like that, but you're also having fun, right? No disrespect to any Leos out there, but just a caveat. Okay, so okay, and then we have the moon. The moon in astrolocality is about our emotions, right? What we need to feel secure. This is also a line where people that are dependent, like children, for example, tend to gravitate towards you more. And of course, whatever sign your moon is in, you're going to be dealing with that sign. So if your moon is in Gemini, right, you're going to be dealing with, you know, more communication with people who are dependent on you, like children or maybe even adults that, you know, have kind of lost their way in life. The moon line is also great for being a parent. You know, people who went, men and women who never thought to be a parent before, depending on their moon sign, will all of a sudden want to be a parent, you know, or want to, you know, really get into that. The downside of the moon line, like I said, with the sun line, is like, you know, being super childlike and kind of being like, you know, too authoritative. The caveat with the moon line is that, you know, there's a lot of drama associated with that line as well, like, because the moon represents our emotions. So there could be people, you know, getting in your business type of thing, depending on the angular position that the moon is with. But a lot of like dramas, day-to-day drama, you know, people kind of dumping on you emotionally, that can happen a lot. And then you're on your moon line, like, what is this? But well, because you're on your moon line, people are very emotional around you. And people who are dependent, like your children, if you have children, they will be, you know, you'll probably have a really good relationship with them. You'll be very close to your children. Same thing with the sun line, because the sun represents children. You know, your children will definitely gravitate towards you a lot. The last thing I want to say about the moon line is where our divine feminine energy resides, right? So men don't particularly do too well on the moon line, depending on their moon sign. So, of course, if he's a Cancer moon, he's going to do pretty good on the moon line. But if not, then, you know, men tend to kind of struggle in moon power line zones, particularly with women. It could be a very lonely place for a male who is not in touch with his divine feminine energy. So that's important for, you know, for men to know if they are looking to travel to the moon line. What's next is the Mercury line. So Mercury is an androgynous planet, and because it rules communication, and men and women, we all communicate, we all write, we all email, we all, you know, so there's no distinction between men and women with that planet, Mercury. Basically, Mercury is a great zone to go to when you want to initiate like a short-term project, like, and it's also a great line for planning projects, right? Planning things. We got a question here.
It's cool. We're gonna hold the question.
Hold up. Okay.
I got you.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. I got it. You just do your thing. I got you.
Okay. So yeah. So Mercury, the Mercury line is like, it's great for people who are on YouTube and stuff like that, and people who want to write a book. That's why I think Mercury is great for planning. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for a long-term place to live. That's just my opinion. Other astrologers have different opinions on that particular thing, but the way that I see Mercury, it's about, you know, writing a book, or, you know, getting that whole planning together, maybe starting a YouTube channel, or if you can't live at your Mercury line, you can publish your YouTube channel to the Mercury line, and we can probably talk about that a little later, and that's called harnessing the energies from afar, because your energetic field is intertwined with that Mercury line. So if you need more YouTube subscribers, maybe, you know, target your YouTube videos in that city, state, or country, and you probably will see better results.
And that's I'm glad you said that, because that led to my next question, which is, is there like a, how can I say this? There is, like you said, a positive thing to the personality lines in that planet, but there's also the negative aspect. So let's say you move to a place that works better for your moon, but then there's an opposition to that can work against it, that may challenge you. So is that always in play when you deal with astrocartography and moving to certain places, that as high as a positive can be, there's also going to be a high negative that you have to battle while dealing with the positive part?
Yes, absolutely. That's true. So are you speaking particularly if, like, I'll give you an example, like if the person has like moon opposite like Saturn and they go to a moon line, is that what you mean?
Yeah, like,
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. So that's definitely a thing. I hope I'm not getting bit by mosquitoes out here. I feel like I am. Yeah, let me go in real quick.
All right.
I knew that was going to start happening, because they just love me.
For everybody
They
that has a
always love me.
question, either put it, there's a question box. You can put your questions in. It's easier for me that way. It'll keep popping up to the next question. So if you have a question, don't comment it because it's going to keep scrolling through and I might miss it. So put it in the question box at the bottom right and put your question in. And then when we get to the question part of the live, I'll bring up the question for Q so that she can kind of just go through each one.
Yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, that's definitely true. So when we look at astrolocality, we also have to consider what's going on in the individual's natal chart. So if the person has, for example, an opposition to the moon and they go to their moon line, what's going to happen is you're still going to have to deal with that opposition on your moon line, even if the moon line is harmonious, right? Because there's levels to it. So the first level is the location, right? So when we move, you know, we pretty much uplift our energy, right? We're going to experience a different energy. And then on an interpersonal level, we're still having to deal with that opposition to the moon. So it's not a bad thing because it's better than living somewhere that's crappy, that's not the moon line, and then you're still dealing with the moon opposition, then you're really feeling really bad. But if you go to your moon line and it's nice, but you're still having to deal with the opposition, at least you're in an environment where, you know, you might be more supported. However, you're still going to deal with that opposition, particularly on a day-to-day basis. But the good news is you'll be much more happier, much more emotionally fulfilled than you would be in, let's say, like a Saturn line, and you're still dealing with that opposition in your chart.
Got you. Wow, that was, you was thorough with that one. So
Yeah.
So as everybody know, we deal with things in life, you know, love, death, all those type of things. So is it possible that people who have been, let's say like somebody have got murdered or killed or something happened to them in a certain location, is that because at that point in time, that personality went against, that planetary personality went against them in that very moment? Like what is the thin line between destiny and the alignments and the planetary alignments and astrocartography work? Like, is there just, like, how do you look at that? You look at it like, okay, if you go here, you're going to die or get harmed, or you look at it like, okay, you gotta let destiny take over, no matter if you're in a good place or a bad place. Does it even matter in the first place? You know, so.
Yeah. So the planetary power line that is associated with death is, of course, Pluto. One of the most interesting charts that I have looked at, that I've studied quite frequently, is President JFK's chart, his relocated chart in Dallas, Texas. And what was there was a grand cross. That means that from Pluto is at the very top, I believe in the 10th house, if I can recall correctly. Pluto was square every single angular position. Square his ascendant, opposite the IC, and square the descendant as well. And so that particular chart definitely indicated that that wasn't a good place for him to be. Unfortunately, AstroCartography wasn't invented until several years after his unfortunate assassination. I believe he was assassinated in the year of 1963. And then 1970, that's when Jim Lewis invented AstroCartography. And I'm pretty sure that politicians use this science to make sure that they're safe, because that's definitely, to answer your question, I would recommend people not go to a square Pluto area, because when I looked at JFK's astrolocality chart in that area as well, he had Chiron and Pluto in a square, I believe. Pluto was a couple kilometers away, and Chiron was the closest. And there were also some aspects with Chiron in a square and a disharmonious aspect as well in that relocated chart. So yes, I do, when I read for people and they want to like avoid that stuff, avoid death, of course we're going to go straight to Pluto. What I do is I'll look and see how Pluto is being aspected in the individual's chart. And if Pluto has, you know, no negative aspects and they go to a positive Pluto line, they're going to be fine. However, fate does take over because we all have free will. You know, astrology, tarot, there's always free will, right? The way that I view death just to give you a little background on that, is I believe that when it's our time to perish, it's our time to perish, no matter how we go, right? Because I've looked at death charts as well. I've looked at Kobe Bryant's chart, Kevin Samuels that just passed away. I looked on, you know, the exact day and around the time when they did pass away, and saw, you know, where the planets were, what degrees they were, and it all made sense to me. You know, it was their time to go. And perhaps they weren't on a Pluto line, you know, so, and they still passed away, you know what I'm saying? So it's not all about, you know, being in a Pluto location. It is, you know, half of it has to do with that, being on your Pluto location, and then the other half, the other 50% is fate and destiny. You know, have you already played out your mission in life, and now you can, you know, go home, if you will.
Okay. And can you kind of, now we're going to go into, so don't get depressed, bro. We're going to go to the other aspect of death.
Okay.
So what about the actual aspect of love? What will actually line up in when it comes to astrocartography, of course, like what will line up when it comes to love? What would be a good place to go to when it comes to love? And what planet personality works off of love? If you can define that.
Okay, yeah, so for love, we will go to our Venus power line, okay? Now, there's all different types of love when it comes to the planet of Venus and the angular positions. I didn't name the angular positions yet, so let me just run through those really quickly, because I think this would be very important while we talk about this. So we have 4 angular positions in astrolocality and in astrology. We have the first house, which is the ascendant, the rising sign. Then we have the 4th house, the Coli, which is Latin for a lower place. It's the 4th house of home, family, and foundation. And then we have the descendant, which is the 7th house of relationships. And then last but not least, we have the midheaven, which is the 10th house of your legacy, your career, your public face out in the world. So with Venus, there are different levels when we pair Venus with those angular positions. Now, this is really good. Like, I love the Venus chart. It gets really peaked. Okay, so if someone's looking for like true love, if you're looking for like true love, like, oh my God, I've never been in love before, Venus IC, Venus Coli, Venus 4th house power line is where you want to go, right? If you're looking for, you know, maybe you want to be a kept man or a kept woman, right? You want a sugar daddy, sugar mama. Then Venus midheaven is where you want to go. Venus on the MC. And I'll explain why after I tell you all these. If you want to get married, you really want to find that love partner that you can get married to. Venus IC is good for that, as well as Venus on the descendant. Perfect for that. Now, Venus on the ascendant is more like self-love. You know, you can find yourself, someone laughed in the comments, you can find yourself, you know, getting really beautiful and like doing all these aesthetic things and working out and, you know, attracting a lot of suitors and really feeling beautiful, really feeling good about yourself, good about your looks, maybe getting some cosmetic stuff done. That can also be a thing as well. So yeah, there's different levels to Venus in terms of what you're looking for. You know, some people are looking for certain things, and there's definitely a line for you, whatever you're looking for in terms of love.
Nice. And which one, for the last thing before we get to the questions, which one deals with birth? Is birth, love, death? Which one deals with birth and newborn, new things, newborn, anything new that deals with birth and astrocartography? What planets deals with that?
Oh, like birthing new things, new projects?
Yes.
I would actually say the sun. I would actually say the sun is good for that, because it's the house of children, the 5th house of children. So birthing like new projects, new creative ideas. Jupiter is also good for that as well. Expanding things, you know, making things new, you know, having good luck, having an easy flow. So that would be, in my opinion, to birth new ideas, because the sun line also promotes health and vitality. You know, feeling really good about yourself and feeling really good about your health and feeling just very joyful. And also the 5th house rules creative projects, you know, birthing those things into existence. So that's what I would say. And plus, you know, the 5th house is fixed. So it definitely helps in that regard as well, to really focus on birthing that new thing that you want to create. So that's what I would say. That deals with birth. Would I say the moon? I guess you could say the moon as well, because
I was about to say the moon is deals
strength,
with the emotional childlike part of
emotion.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
I would say the moon as well.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people when they go to the moon, they if they have kids, they probably want more kids, or if they don't have kids and they want kids, they're gonna even want it even more. So yeah, that could happen.
Okay. We do got a few questions here. Let's see if we can run through it real quick and then end it off with, with your resources, how they can reach you and things like that in your platforms. Are all conjunctions indicative of a negative life challenge or event?
No, not all of them. I would say conjunctions with malefic planets are indicative of negative life challenges. Malefics like Mars would be a malefic. All of the outer planets, with the exception of Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto, malefics. So if you have like Mars conjunct Pluto, that's very challenging. I've seen people have Neptune conjunct Uranus. That's quite challenging as well. Very, very challenging when you have outer planets conjuncting each other. Because, and here's why, because when we deal with outer planets, think of it like this. Outer planets represent external energy that you have no control over. You have no control over. Mars is an inner planet, but it's still a malefic, right? It's dealing with, energy, action, even violence. We have Mars in Aries right now, all month long. So I was seeing like this increase in like mass shootings and stuff like that. So guys, be careful this summer, please. Just a side note. So I would say conjunctions, it just depends on the planets that are in conjunction. If you have a malefic like Pluto conjuncting like Venus or something like that, that's not bad, because actually Venus is a benefic. That actually like kind of increases your sex appeal. You know what I'm saying? But when two malefics are in conjunction, then you're going to have some challenging events for sure.
Okay. This question was actually in the comments, and she asked, does ascendant and rising mean the same thing? She said, I hear these terms used interchangeably.
Yes, they mean the same thing. Yes, your ascendant is your rising sign, aka your first house of the self, the personality, and the physical body.
Okay. Oops.
I can go into why that is too, if that makes more sense to people.
Yeah, I'm about to say, go into that a little bit for those who don't understand it.
Yeah. So when we think about the definition of ascendant, it does mean to rise, right? If you guys look up the definition of ascendant, I'm ascending, I'm rising, and that's aka the rising sign. That's essentially the planet that was, or the placement, the sign rather, that was rising in the eastern hemisphere of your birth chart at the time of your birth. That's the placement that was rising, ascending. So it pretty much means the same thing once you get into the context of the definitions and stuff like that.
Okay. Next question. Can you explain, our Saturn returns every 27 years, or was it 28 years, I think? Every 27 or 28 years. Can you explain this?
Yeah, so I believe it's 27. So you get it at 27 and then at like 50, age 55 or something like that. 55 or 56, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the next question. We running through these.
This mosquito wants to come in at me.
Okay.
I can't go in my apartment because the service is so crappy. You know how it is, Kento.
I know. I already know. You ain't got to explain yourself. We're going to make this work.
Okay.
I think this is another question. Are all conjunctions indicative of a negative life challenge? I think you already answered this question?
Answer that one.
All right. Let's see. Do we have any more? My fault. All right. So somebody says, do you do synastry charts at all in your line of work?
Yes. That's actually one of my fortes with the clinical astrology, because a lot of times, because clinical astrology is essentially therapy. So I do have a lot of couples, come my way that, need help on those things. I'm actually just walking to the front so that I won't get bit by mosquitoes. So yes, I do. I do synastry charts for sure. I think that that's very important when you're selecting a mate. Try to get their birth chart information if you can. Even if you can't, look at 12 noon, because that's going to actually tell you where the generational planets are. It's going to tell you, where the Pluto is and Saturn and all that stuff, and potentially even too their Mars and their Mercury, because those are slower moving than the moon. So yeah, I do synastry charts. I do birth chart readings, predictive astrology readings, astrolocality, of course, and clinical astrology.
Nice. So you do a wide variety of things. Like it's like a band with the things you do, just not just astrocartography, right? And I think that's dope too. I feel like, if you want to do this line of work, you have to be well versed in almost all of that whatever embodies astrology, period, you got to embody all of it. You know what I mean? Like even if you found one thing you like about it that you do more often, you still have to embody everything because you want to be able to answer as much questions as possible and grow too, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's important. So I'm trying. I had a question. Oh, so how can people exactly get into astrocartography? And and I had a question as well. Like, why is it? And this is another reason why I brought you on, because I realized that out of all the astrologers of all these years, I've watched lectures and been in lectures and listened to them talk about it. They don't really talk about astrocartography at all. Like they really don't even mention it. So you were actually the first astrocartographyist, whatever you want to call it, that I ever met in my life. So can you kind of explain why is that astrologers don't really even talk about astrocartography?
I think, well, number one, it is like a copyrighted thing. So, if you are not certified in astrocartography, then you have to essentially call your readings like astrolocality, astrogeography. I think that's one of the main issues. People feel like, people aren't really coming to astrologists for those types of readings. I believe that's another point there. So they kind of just, stick strictly to astrology, medieval astrology, Hellenistic astrology, whatever they're into. But for me, I think the reason that I do it is because I have a lot of ninth house placements. I'm a Sagittarius rising, Mercury in the ninth house, Sun in the ninth house. And the ninth house deals with foreign cultures, foreign lands, long distance travel. Essentially, It's all about travel. And my North Node is in the third house of short distance travel. So I just think that those astrologists in the past or in present who aren't into it, they may not have the same placements as me. It's something that I'm really interested in because my chart is so like geared toward travel and locations and stuff like that. And also too, like I said before, I feel like some astrologists probably feel like people aren't really looking to get those kinds of readings. They're looking for more like relationship. They're looking for more like predictive astrology, birth chart readings, which are very popular. So I think that's probably the reason.
Right. Another question somebody asked was, do you study sidereal or tropical? And what's the difference between those two really quickly?
Okay, yeah. So tropical is Western, sidereal is like Eastern. So with sidereal, I believe it's you go back 29 degrees.
Oh, okay.
So if you're a Libra in Western tropical, you're a Virgo in sidereal. So that's pretty much what it is, which is actually true because I'm a Libra, but I do feel like a Virgo a lot. I resonate with Virgo a lot, especially when I do my forecast, my moon forecast, new moon and full moon forecast. I really do, feel like I resonate with Virgo. And even people that don't know me very well, like I've had people tell me like, you're an earth sign. I'm like, no, I'm actually not. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But people who really know me as a crazy Libra. Like you are so airy, Q. Like I know. So yeah, that's the difference to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get it. Like people told me a lot that like they think I'm a Taurus all the time. I get the same thing. You a Taurus? I'm like, no, you can't be a Pisces. You too chill. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I guess that's kind of like shallow surface level stuff they get from like the horoscopes that talk about the same thing. Really, they don't really get into the details of it. That's how I take it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You professional. Can you let me know if I'm wrong? You know what I mean? Let's see. So we're gonna answer about 1 or 2 more questions for Q.
Okay.
And then what Q's gonna, you know, you can get into how they can find you and stuff. So
Okay.
so our sun sign would be in our 1st house or 12th house.
Oh, and sidereal and tropical. Because I don't follow sidereal, I'm not the best person to ask that question to. I literally do not look at sidereal astrology.
Okay.
I literally do not.
It's a question like sidereal is more so like towards Vedic astrology, Eastern astrology,
Vedic,
like
yeah.
Chinese, India,
Like
what is it?
India.
Chinese, India,
Yeah.
more Eastern astrology, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that still relevant when it deals with astrocartography, or it doesn't even matter in the first place?
I do believe that they do use sidereal for astrocartography. I have seen that. I have seen that present. So there are astrologists who are on the sidereal side of things, the Vedic side of things. They do use astrocartography with that system, with sidereal. I have seen that.
Let me see. I think that was the last question. I think now people are just commenting what they are. So first of all, I want to thank you for just explaining this wide variety of things and really introducing astrocartography to a lot of people who are probably novices in astrology. So I just want to say thank you for just bringing that energy to I'm gonna say a new light in the same room, right? A new light in the same room, and I think that's really dope. So how can people find your line of work? How can they follow you? How can they support you? And drop that cash app, because people will be donating some money after this probably. So they won't want to know.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so you guys can follow me at JustListen Astrology, JustListen Astrology on Instagram, JustListen Astrology on YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel where I create content on, and JustListen Astrology on TikTok as well. I do like some TikTok videos, you know, very casual, where I'm like talking about, you know, different philosophies that I've come up with as they relate to astrology. I just dropped a video on TikTok today talking about magic and astrology. There's this whole concept about magic and people doing magic on people's money, and I'm just like, I don't think that that's real, because when I look at the chart, this is why this is happening. So, you know, there's stuff like that I do on TikTok. And my email is justlistenmedia, the number 1 @gmail.com. You can reach out to me there. On my YouTube channel, there's my price list in the description box under every single video. So if you ever like to book a reading with me, all the information is there. Or you can email me. Again, it's justlistenmedia, the number 1 @gmail.com. And as far as my cash apps, my cash app is Sun in the Ninth House, because I have Sun in the Ninth House. And my Venmo is Just Listen, because I'm a good listener, so it's all Just Listen.
Hey, listen, man. Donate that sister some money, support her. You know what I mean? We all got to keep the lights on in the house. All right, so.
And that's the number 9, Sun in the Ninth House. That's the number 9 house, by the way.
Number 9 house. Don't worry about it, Q, because I'm actually going to put it in when I post the video. I'm actually going to put it in the caption, so that they can actually go ahead and donate. So after this, you can just DM me your cash app, and I'll put the information on the caption. Whatever you want me to put, I'll put it on there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I definitely want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us your wisdom, your love, your attention, your time. I know that's valuable for you because you're a busy person. And I was gotta say, I'm grateful for you for coming onto my platform, which I really, really appreciate you for. And I really wish you nothing but the best in your line of work. And everybody else, if you want to find Q, you want to get her details, information, get whatever reading or consultation you want to get from her, just I'll be posting the caption later on under the live video so that you can access Q and, get your life together in whatever way y'all want to, love and whatever. So thank you, Q. You know what I mean? I want you to have a good rest of the night, get some rest, be safe, put some lemon or whatever you can on them arms and getting bit up when
I know.
sacrificing your body for us. We appreciate you.
The mosquitoes love me. They always love me. Oh my God. I don't know why. But thank you, Kenta. This was great.
No
I appreciate you having me on your platform. And yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you, and I wish you the best as well on all your endeavors. I like to see Black men win out here, and you're doing a great thing, and I appreciate you extending your platform to me.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, and shout out to More to Club for this shirt. It says, I am black and proud. Thank you for the shirt, sis. Very creative young sister. I'll post that later on too. It's dope. So Q, have a good rest of the night. Everybody have a good rest of the night. Be safe, much love, and as always, protect your energy at all times.
Thank you. Peace, everybody.
Peace, peace.